Hello, and welcome to the Vermont Council for the Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and DeafBlind. I'm here to share with you information from our recent meeting and give you some updates. My name is Bill Hudson. I'm a member of the council and co-chairperson. And I'm happy to share with you today some items from our meeting. There are 20 members on the council, and of those, 17 were present at the March 21st meeting. Some of the things that were discussed was that we were required to have a position on the council of a superintendent from a school. So we're happy to share that we have found someone to fill that position. Her name is Suzette Ballard. She is the superintendent of a school in Orange County. That's in middle of Vermont, near the Barrie southern area. So we welcome Suzette to our council. So EHDI, the Early Hearing Detection Intervention, known as EHDI, is run through the Department of Health, is a very important service that helps to identify children born deaf, hard of hearing, or with some hearing loss. So babies born in the hospital through this service are tested before they leave to go home. If hearing loss is detected, then there is a team that immediately becomes involved working with the family to help them understand the different programs, services, and support that are available to them. You can imagine that parents who have a deaf or hard of hearing child are met with surprise and needing help about how to figure out what to do. So that's what this program is about, and it's a great service. So there was some discussion about the EHDI program in that there has been funding cuts. Up to 47% of the funding of that budget has been cut. So that's a deep cut. So we will know more after June with the change of the fiscal year and see what happens with that. We had some discussion about when those cuts, if and when they come into place, what would we be doing? So we'll see what happens there. Another topic that was discussed was we invited Fred Jones to join us. He's the director of DBVI, which is the Department of Blind and Visually Impaired Services. It's under Voc Rehab Services, specifically for vision. We were curious about how DBVI, what their interagency structure works like, how it works. And the reason we asked Fred to join us is to come and speak and share with us, to help us learn more about the different programs and how they are run and how the budget and staffing responsibilities, what duties they maintain, and how they work in the community, to help us as members of the council learn more about them. So we were pleased to hear him and have him there to share with us. DBVI helps people look for work and find training. And he spoke briefly about a program of interest called SSP. And he spoke about a program with assistive devices called iConnect. They provide a training as well. And they also work with the Perkins School for the Blind in New York. DBVI also works with local schools and bill for their services. working with teachers in local schools. So we thank Fred for joining us during that meeting. Another topic of discussion was something that I mentioned in the last video, the 4 work groups that we've developed. And I'll quickly review those work groups with you. The first is the birth to age 3. The second is the school age group. The third work group focuses on adult needs. And then the fourth group works with the elderly. The goals of the 4 groups was to work on finding two goals for them to work on. And the 4 groups did find very similar goals, and I can explain that quickly. Birth to age 3, that group would like to work on looking at best practices and guidelines for families who have children that are deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf-blind. Also looking into what kind of policies need to be in place to help children of that age group become successful. The second goal for that group was to facilitate family involvement. For example, working with families and connecting them with services, making sure that there are not any roadblocks or issues as that's occurring. So doing some facilitation as far as finding services for them in Vermont. And then the school age group. That was a big challenge because we know that school age children are very important and they need access. What is important is their access to school education, and they could use more of that. So without Austin School for the Deaf, what does mainstreaming look like now for those students? And they're focusing on their funding needs, their accessibility. There needs to be more research and development of policies for this age group. And the council is working close with the Agency of Education about that. So right now, one of the goals of that group is to find out about funding to help us access and pay for some of those services. The second goal of that group is to continue with research, finding out what services are out there available to meet the needs of school-age children, and also educating teachers and staff who would need more information about that. And we'll find more information from the school-age group later. Then the adult group came up with 2 issues to focus on. One is communication. As far as for adults in the community, knowing where to go to get services or having a place to find the information that they need. Like, for example, the 211 hotline on the phone is a contact hub for people looking for services to fit various needs. Something similar to that for the adults that are deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind would be helpful. For example, if there's a need of mental health services and you need an interpreter to have access to those services, or how to find a therapist that would provide access. Or, for example, if you need to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to reinstate your license, going to the Department of Motor Vehicles and having access to communication about those needs. It would be nice for the community to have an easy access to services in those areas, hopefully. The second focus of the group is to coordinate a central place where all of the needs and services can be available in one location to be found. This is not something that one person can do on their own. This needs to be a team approach where there is staff involved in care and coordination of all the different services being available in one place. So that's a topic for more discussion later as well. And then the fourth working group, which is focusing on the needs of the elderly. Again, their two focuses have been outreach and accessibility. So I can imagine a situation where someone needs to go to a hospital in an emergency setting and they need access to communication. Or if they're in a nursing home, they might need access. Or their family members might need support, something that would help the families meet their needs. So all four of those working groups have a similar theme for communication and outreach needs. And they will continue to be working on that, and there'll be more information to come. Another topic that was discussed was funding. The legislature set up our council a few months ago, but there was not a budget set for that council to pay for expenses like consultants to come from out of state or interpreters or other things that would help our council do its job. So that somewhat limits our potential. There was some discussion about different agencies that might be willing to share some of the burden of the cost. So that is still up for discussion. And we are very thankful for the several agencies that have already been willing to pay for interpreting services and CART real-time captioning. So we're thankful for that, to have had some support on some of those services that were needed for council work. Another thing the council is discussing is our need for public input. We would like to have a meeting with the public. We would like to see more engagement with the community, with the deaf community, hard of hearing groups. There doesn't seem to be enough engagement, and part of the issue is funding as a roadblock. So we'd like to see the opportunity to collect public input and to get support from the public, and to be able to communicate why our council is here and what we're working on. So we'd like to deepen our relationship with the public and set up some type of community forum where we can gather that type of input. However, at the current time, we do offer opportunities for you to give your feedback. We very much encourage that. We would very much like to hear from you and welcome that. Another topic we discussed was the CARES project, C-A-R-E-S. CARES project is run through the Department of Health. That is a project that works with families to provide support and networking and group engagement for families who have deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind children. I believe that it's like a camp where children and families can attend, and it's been successful in other states, and we would like to see about possibly setting that up here in Vermont. So there was some discussion about that at our meeting, and we'll know more about that later. Another topic we discussed was hearing aids and insurance money for hearing aids. Every year, the legislature, someone has brought up the discussion of hearing aids being covered through insurance. And every year, the legislature doesn't recognize that need. This year's recommendation was called H90, about hearing aids. Our council, most of us are hearing aid users, or deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf blind. or have some family members who access and use of hearing aids. And it's an important tool, but it's very expensive. So the council will have more discussion and investigation into coverage for insurance dollars to cover hearing aid costs. So that was our meeting and the updates, the minutes of our meeting. We have a website that I showed you in our last video, and I can show you again the web address. Please feel free to go in and look around at our website and give us your input. It's your support that is very valuable and very much needed, and we'd like to thank you for that. Here's where you can reach us. Thank you very much. Keep strong and united. Thank you.